All right, today we are going to talk about multiplying and dividing integers. We've already talked about adding and subtracting. This is lesson 6 in chapter 1. Follow along in your book with, if you want to follow along in your book, look to page 51 is where we'll be starting that. And when we're multiplying integers with different signs, we're going to have a different result than if we multiply integers with the same signs. So in words, if the product of two integers with different signs is always negative, if we have a positive and a negative, so their signs are different, positive times a negative always gives us a negative. And likewise, if we have a negative times a positive always gives us a negative. When we multiply integers with the same sign, what happens? Well, two integers with the same sign gives us a positive result both times. If we have two numbers or two integers that are positive, a positive times a positive gives us a positive. But if they're both negative, we also get a positive result. What if we have more than two integers that we want to multiply together? Well, to do that, we're going to use our commutative and associative properties that we talked about recently. Here we have negative 2 times 13 times negative 5, and we want to find out what the resulting answer is and what its sign is. So the first method, we're going to use the associative property. Remember, the associative property tells us that we can group numbers together without changing their order. We can group them how we want to. So in this example, we group the first two and then multiply that by the resulting number. So we have negative 2 times 13, which is negative 26. And we're going to multiply that by a negative 5. So remember, the signs are the same, so the result is positive, and that gives us 130. When we use the commutative property, this works out really nicely. It says we can move the numbers around, we can group them differently and put them in a different order. So this time we're going to take this negative 5 and multiply it first by the negative 2, and then take that result times 13. Well, when these two signs are the same, we're going to get a positive number, so 2 times 5 will give us 10, times 13, which we know is 130. Which leads us to the study tip on the left-hand side. We always want to look for products that are multiples of 10, because that makes the math multiplication simpler. You don't need your calculator. What about when we're dividing integers? What happens then? Well, the quotient, remember quotient means you're dividing. The quotient of two integers with different signs is always negative. That's when you have different signs, they're negative. And the quotient of two integers with the same sign is positive. Well, that's the same result we had when we were multiplying. So here we go. A negative divided by a positive. Signs are different, so that should give us a negative result. And it does. Negative 24 divided by 3 is a negative 8. Over here on the right, we have two numbers that are both negative. They have the same sign. So we'll get a positive result, and we get a positive 2. How about evaluating algebraic expressions? Here we have the expression negative 2a minus b. We want to know what the value of that expression is if we let a be negative 3 and let b be negative 5. Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to rewrite that with negative 3 and negative 5 substituted in for a and b. And then we're going to evaluate what we get. Well, negative 2 times a negative 3 is a positive 6. And then we have minus a minus 5. Well, 6 minus a minus is a plus, and that gives us 11. Here's a real-world example. It says for 6 consecutive days, the average temperature in Asheville was lower than normal. The number of degrees the average temperature differed from the normal temperature is shown in this table. Find the mean or average of those variations. Well, in this one, what we're going to want to do, I'm going to move this table down a little bit so I can scroll down here to see our work. We need to find the average of this set of numbers. Well, we have 6 numbers, one for each day, and here are our numbers. Remember, to find the average, you add all of the numbers up and divide by how many you have. So add them all together, divide by how many you have. So when we add the numerator, we get negative 42. Divide that by 6. A negative divided by a positive will give us a negative 7. So that's the average change there. So in summary, multiplying and dividing integers, whenever we have The product, meaning multiply, or quotient, meaning divide, product or quotient of two integers with the same sign is positive. So same signs are positive. Likewise, different signs are negative. Your assignment for this evening is to complete your notables for lesson 1-6, and we'll see you next time.